Please help me welcome back to the show the voice of Duke women's basketball and my good brother, Chris Edwards. Chris, how are you, man?
Great to see you, buddy. Appreciate you having me on today.
I told you I'd bring you back.
You did. It's been a couple years. Well, a year, I guess now. Yeah.
It's been about a year. My health tried to mess up again, and I got tired of it.
Good.
I got tired of it. My wife got tired of it. And she said, if you're ready to really, really fix it, I'll help you fix it. And I said, baby, I'm yours.
Yeah.
help me.
You know
get it
what?
right.
We all need somebody like that in our corner. You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely. With a moment, Jody told me to chase my dream. I said, you're not going anywhere. And here we are 7 years
I love
later.
it. Listen, I told my wife, I said, you got to do a better job embracing your mistakes. So she gave me a hug.
Jody and I have so much fun laughing together. We came up with 5 rules of the house. And rule number 1 is the wife is always right.
Happy wife, happy life.
Yep.
I'm there.
And the second rule is it's always my fault, no matter what it is. And she comes up with these convoluted ways that when something happened to her, it's my fault. I'm on the floor laughing by the end of her explanation. And I said, so somehow all that happened and it's still my fault. She says, yep. I just sit there and laugh.
Hey, I told somebody, one of my friends got married. I said, hey, listen, some free advice. If you use these phrases, you're always going to be okay. Yes, ma'am. You're right. I'm sorry. Just use those interchangeably. You'll be okay.
They are interchangeable at the appropriate time.
They sure are. You got to read.
They are interchangeable at the appropriate time. Speaking of appropriate time, it's an appropriate time for me to tell you congratulations to the Lady Blue Devils. You're going dancing this week.
Yeah, a lot of fun. With the 3rd year in a row under Coach Lawson, this team's going to the NCAA tournament, coming off their first ACC tournament championship in 12 years. First time they got to the title game since 2017. Fun week in Greensboro a couple of weeks ago. Kind of the revenge tour for Duke. They beat Louisville, the only team to beat them at home in the regular season. They beat Notre Dame. It's interesting, the symmetry of that game in the semifinals. Duke went to South Bend about 3.5 weeks ago. It was a 2-point game at halftime. Duke was down 2 points at halftime. Came out, Notre Dame did in the third quarter, and just fired on all cylinders. Outscored Duke like 18-1 to start the third quarter. Well, in the game in Greensboro, 2-point game at the half, Notre Dame up by 2. Blue Devils came out, kind of counterpunched a little bit, pulled away late to win it over the Fighting Irish, and then beat a really good NC State team. Had to come from 14 down in the first half, down 7 points at the break. Found a way in the third quarter and fourth quarter to beat NC State for their first tournament championship, and now a number 2 seed and a chance to host in Cameron this coming weekend.
I've been in the cathedral called Cameron Indoor Stadium, and I can say very honestly and very lovingly, it's a nut house.
Well, yeah, but it's our nut house, right?
It's so
great.
Much fun. At the game I went to in 1995, Duke, North Carolina, the 2 overtime classic, I remember coming out of there.
The Capel shot.
Yeah, Capel shot. The Capel half-court shot. I remember coming out of there, and my friend saw me, and he said, can you even talk? Nope.
It's funny. I think depending on which side of the rivalry you're on with that game, you think of that game as either the Capel shot or wasn't it like the Vince Carter dunk or is the dunk, right? It was the baseline, or was it Rasheed? It was somebody it was the baseline dunk. So no matter which side of the rivalry you're on, you got a perspective on that game. It's the beauty of basketball in this area, right? It's Tobacco Road. It's the same for the women. I mean, man, you look at the league this year, holy smokes, 8 teams overall from the ACC. You could make a case for 9 or 10 teams, I think. And you got Duke as a 2. You got North Carolina as a 4. NC State's a 2. Notre Dame's a 3. I mean, the list goes on and on. So, Cameron's great. Good to have another weekend there, but we got to take care of business and hopefully get on to Birmingham next weekend.
How big is it to see this team win the ACC tournament for the first time in a while?
Yeah, I think it's big. I think it's the next step, right? I mean, I've made this analogy for a lot of our sports, particularly the baseball program that I do some work with. Like, baseball hadn't been to a regional in 50-something years. Now, obviously, it's hard to win the ACC in the regular season, the tournament, whatever. But you got to get there, and you got to get over the hump. And now in year 5 for Coach Lawson, this team has gotten there. It's not just getting there, but it's actually performing at that level too, right? It's like a human. You got to walk, you got to crawl before you can walk, and walk before you can run, and all those things. And it's kind of this building blocks for Duke. And I thought in the first half against NC State, a little bit of like a deer in the headlights, for lack of a better analogy, right? Because NC State's been there. They'd been to 5 of the last 6 title games. They knew what it was like in that environment. Blue Devils had to get their sea legs under them a little bit. They got down 14. Jordan Wood, it's a big 3 at the end of the first half to cut it to 7. And then Duke just comes out and plays their usual brand of grinded out, physical, good defensive basketball. Made some big shots. Alucia Kanawa, 22 points, the tournament MVP. Ashlyn Jackson, 22 points. It's somebody different every night for this team, too. And I think that's the special part. Not to take anything away from teams that have a superstar, like an Angel Reese, like a Caitlin Clark, like a Leah Boston, whoever, right? But this is a collection of just kids who work hard together, and they play at a really high level. And I think come March, this is going to be a really hard team to get out in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, Duke is going to be a very, very tough out in the tournament this year. I saw it. I saw it when they won the ACC tournament, and I said, "Oh, they're going to be some tough cookies to get out of the tournament." One of the players that I have my eye on is a freshman by the name of Toby Fournier.
Yeah, ACC Freshman of the Year, first team All ACC All Freshman team. Everybody knows, I think, Toby now by her ability to dunk, all the highlight reel dunks. Haven't seen that yet this year. I mean, it's coming, right, at some point. But just her growth and her maturation throughout the course of the season. I think it's hard for kids, especially like Toby and every kid that has so much success at the high school, the AAU level, because the game just comes easy. You're not really playing the game. I mean, you're playing, but you don't have to think. You just go out there and do it and move on, right? Run back down the court, right? Block a shot, get a rebound, run back down the court, do it again. You've got to really learn the ins and outs. And I think you saw Toby this year get some of those really physical, talented post players in the ACC. Olivia Cochran at Louisville, Maddie Westbell, Leah Tu King at Notre Dame. I mean, I'm going to forget a lot, but just those really older post players, Toby had to learn how to play against those players. And you saw her get better as the year went along. You saw her offense get better, sure. Her ability to go left or right, her ability to spin, put up the hook shot, get to the goal. She can step out, hit a mid-range jumper. We've seen her step back and hit a few threes this year, too. She can stretch the defense, but I think it is her defensive effort that has come the furthest. You look at Toby's first collegiate game, she fouled out in the game that Duke played, the very first game of the season. Hasn't fouled out of a game, I don't think, the rest of the year. So not that that's, some of that's subjective in the officials, and I understand all that, but you can just see how much better she's gotten on the defensive end of the floor as the season has gone along. And that is the big key for the Blue Devils, playing that really good defense. They've been the best defensive team in the country, you could argue, in the last 3 or 4 years, and went to the Sweet 16 last year, looking for another run or a deeper run like that this season.
Man, it's so much fun covering women's sports, isn't it? Just to see them grow, just to see them, the camaraderie. I've covered women's sports now for the bulk of 25 years. And I told Gina Rogers, PA announcer who I had on earlier in the show, that I'm steering towards women's sports coverage, and doing that, that just gives me a fire, especially when I get to call the sports that I love to call. And finding out last week that I got permission to call Columbus East games in Columbus, Indiana. So I'll be back in the booth physically this fall. But man, something about women's sports. I got hooked on women's NCAA basketball at the first year they had the Final Four, which was 1982. I've been glued to the television since. Talk about how big it is to see women's sports continue to grow.
Yeah, it's huge, right? I mean, everyone's got those T-shirts. Everyone watches women's sports, right? Because it's true. Everyone does watch women's sports. I mean, the growth of the game, and we've talked about this a lot this year on our broadcast. Like, you had the Caitlin Clarks and the Angel Reeses last year, but it's now the next wave, right? It's maybe not the super. You don't have a Caitlin Clark or an Angel or whatever, but you've got a collection of players. I mean, you can look at Notre Dame, and you can look at, Hannah Hidalgo. You can look at Sonia Citron, Olivia Miles, Juju Watkins at USC. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Paige Beckers at UConn. The list goes on. And Haley Van Lith at
Haley
TCU.
Van Lith. Yep.
Like everywhere you go, there's a superstar player, right? And it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be the same for decades to come, right? Because people are finally investing in women's sports. It took a long time, but listen, look at the progress we've made even this year, Brian. Like up until this tournament, the one that's going to start this week, there were no units for women's basketball. Now, what does that mean? That's a very in the weeds conversation. It's all about conferences, right? And in the men's tournament, let's say you've got 6 teams from the ACC that make the tournament, and they all advance to the second round. Well, that win is worth a amount of money for the conference, and the more they move on, the more money it is for these conferences and these schools that gets dispersed out, right? Finally, in the women, we're going to get that. We're going to see people investing more in women's sports. The NCAA has invested more. The TV partners, the TV contract. Could the TV contract be more? Absolutely. Could we do more to invest in women's sports? Yes. But you're seeing games now on ABC. You're seeing games on NBC, streaming on Peacock, ESPN, these prime time windows. I mean, how many big Monday games have you seen this year where it's women's basketball? And it's these marquee matchups. It's South Carolina, UConn. It's Tennessee, UConn. It's Duke, Notre Dame, Duke, NC State. It's all of these programs that have been traditionally really good and are powerhouses again, right? But you've also got these up and coming programs. TCU's a 2 or 3 seed. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, TCU last year almost had to fold the season because they had so many injuries, and
Yeah.
now they're a 2 seed. Right now, some of that's the portal, and some of that's NIL, and all of that is a good thing. But look at the quality of the product, and the game has never been better on the court, off the court. The strength of the game has never been better, and it's not just college basketball. Look at the ratings for the WNBA. Look at all the collective bargaining stuff going on in the W. There are so many things about this sport. And look, we could talk about softball and how much softball has grown and the TV numbers for volleyball. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just women's basketball. Now, we're talking women's basketball today, but it's across the board the way people have invested in women's sports. And if you're going to get on the train, now's a great time to hop on because we're moving fast and you got to hop on and join us.
I'm joining it and I love it. I've been on the train for a while, over 20 years.
Yeah.
I've been on the train a while. Some people have watched my virtual coverage when I did the national championship last year with South Carolina and Iowa. I did the game and I put it away, but then I get an alert seeing how many people watched my broadcast. And when I saw that number say 3,100, I went,
Yeah.
what? I went, wait, what? And my wife said, see, you can get numbers like that, just dedicate to women's sports and just go with it, be it in person or virtual. Cause I'm doing the women's first 4 tomorrow and Thursday, then concentrating on the women's tournament all the way through.
Yeah. And really good games, really good matchups too.
Oh yeah. Look, get deeper in the tournament, the matchups get better.
Sure. Yeah.
The matchups get better the deeper you go in the tournament. I can't wait, and I can't wait to hear your call when you get Duke. You'll be at home in Cameron Indoor Stadium.
We will, yeah.
I can't wait to hear your call for the NCAA tournament, my man. This is my brother Chris Edwards, the voice of Duke women's basketball and Duke baseball. You can check him out on the Blue Devils Sports Network. A pleasure, my friend.
Always good to be with you. Pleasure. Appreciate you having me always. We'll do it again soon.